Hi, I'm John Townsend, and today we've got a guest in the studio. It's Dennis Neely. He's a writer that writes for many outdoor magazines. What is it exactly that you like to write about?
I specialize in traditional black powder hunting. Mm-hmm. Our living history pursuit is the actual pursuing of game in a fair chase manner, taking of game for our table.
Right.
And to share with the family.
Exactly the way they would have done it in the 18th
Exactly.
century. Right. So which magazines do you write for?
I write for a number. Woods and Water News out of Michigan. It's Michigan's premier outdoor publication. Mm-hmm. I do a column for them on traditional black powder hunting.
Right.
And then I write articles occasionally for Muzzleblast. I have been in Muzzleloader Magazine and other publications like that.
And you've got a blog online?
I have a blog online, Jonathan. It's traditionalblackpowderhunting.com. Mm-hmm. I try to post a story about once a week. It's a full-length magazine story. And then on Saturday, what I do is I put up Snapshot Saturday, which is a picture from the photo albums that we have that we carry around to the different outdoor shows.
Sure. And how long have you been doing this kind of thing?
Oh, goodness gracious, since the late 1970s.
Yeah.
I started out when Michigan had its muzzleloading deer season. Mm-hmm. I borrowed a Zouave Civil War reenacting rifle. Mm-hmm. I missed a nice 6-point buck. And as I sat there in the snow and the barrel's getting warm and you're smelling the black powder, I'm thinking, what would it really have been like to hunt in the 18th century? And from there, I built a Northwest trade gun, and I've done my own clothes.
Sure.
Actually, I started out with clothes from your dad, it just go from there and try to relive the different journal entries that you read.
But what made you go from, hey, I want to go hunting, to, hey, I want to write about it and teach people about it?
About 14, 15 years ago, something like that, I changed careers, and I thought I would do some corporate writing because that's what I had done in the past.
Right.
And while I was waiting for somebody to knock on the door, I wrote a couple magazine articles about my hobby, which was traditional black powder hunting. And the article sold, and it took off from there. And Woods and Water News, they published the first article back, I believe, in 2003, and I've been in the publication ever since.
So what would you say to someone who's interested in black powder hunting? Maybe they're a modern hunter, or somebody who's interested in history and the history of that. What would you say to them about getting started?
At the end of each article that I write, the first part of the closing, my signature closing, is give traditional black powder hunting a try. And that's all we really ask. If you're interested, give it a try. At one of the outdoor shows a number of years ago, we had a gentleman come in, and he saw our setup, he saw the clothing. Both my wife and I are traditional black powder hunters. And he said, you know, I've always wanted to take a deer with a Civil War Springfield rifle.
Sure.
And I said, what's standing in your way?
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he said, well, I really don't know.
Get out there and do it.
And that's it. I just told him, get out there and give it a try.
Well, what do you think about what does it add to the experience of hunting to not just take a period type weapon, but to go dressed in all the kinds of things that they would have worn? How do you feel about that?
I feel myself slip back in time. What I really have learned to look for is what I call a pristine moment, a moment when you don't know what century you're in, when what you're doing brings the same emotional rush. You end up with the same interpretation of the moment that a hunter in the 18th century would have written in his or her journal. And in that instances, those moments only last for a few seconds. But it's a chance to get back and relive that history.
You can just go out and do reenacting sort of as a generic person, but a lot of times it seems to be easier to really have it nailed down to a particular person. Do you have a persona that you work with?
Yes, and I have several, really, and they've developed over time. For a long time, I hunted as an independent trader supplying a small trading post along the River Raisin. And what I would do is I would read about that type of history or read journals like that, I would take bits and pieces of the history and put them into the persona. And your persona kind of becomes a vessel that you keep your historical records in. And in the last few years, I've really gotten excited about the Native Captive journals. For those individuals, there's a lot of it out there, particularly James Smith, Jonathan Alder, and John Tanner. And here about 2012, I think, our deer herd got decimated with EHD.
Okay.
So my deer season in November was pretty much watching turkeys walk around. And it gave me a lot of time to think. And I thought, you know, you really spend a lot of time thinking and reading about Tanner, especially. And why don't you do a persona based on that? So I decided in 2012 I would do that. It has been a huge undertaking, but I outlined his journal, the journals of Smith and Alder, and used what they wrote to determine what I would wear for clothing, how I would hunt, and the clothing that I'm wearing today is a reflection of that. And then you read the journals and they talk about dealing with the cold and how they dealt with the cold, and you're experiencing the same physical environment that they're experiencing.
Well, I really want to thank Dennis for coming in today and sitting for this interview. I really want to thank Tammy, his wife, who was in, and she was actually helping us do some of the record keeping for making the videos. It makes it so much easier to do. I'll make sure to put a link in the text of the description here to his blog and also any links we can find to specific journals that he might have mentioned. We'll see what we can come up with there in the description text. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. If you're new to our channel, I want to welcome you. You can subscribe by clicking the button right up here. Also check out our related videos. Thanks so much for watching.